What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central. Usually day after games, I have my game or recaps or reviews, whatever you want to call them. However, we did stream them live, did post it as a podcast episode. So today we're actually going to be talking about something that I was thinking about. Was this past 2021 offseason the best offseason in Bulls franchise history? I'll be talking about my thoughts there, why maybe, why not. We'll also be diving into the mailbag with a few different questions we've gotten from listeners and subscribers. So we'll get into all that right after this. All right, so I want to start this show off with talking about the Chicago Bulls offseason. Now that we are about a quarter of the way through the season, and we're on pace for a 53-win season as of right now, I want to talk about, is this the best offseason in Chicago Bulls history? I understand us bringing in Dennis Rodman. I understand that even in the Jordan era, the Bulls had some pretty solid offseasons, but it was mainly role players. The reason why I wanted to present this question and talk about this and see how the fandom thinks about it and interact with you guys is, in the last year, 90% of the roster was turned over. But even outside of that, the Bulls have taken a team that didn't even make the playoffs. It probably would have had Zach LaVine's COVID shit not happen and some other things. The Bulls may have made at least a playing game last season. But the Bulls took that roster full of a lot of young players who are unproven, some that have gone on to have success on other teams like Daniel Gafford, but some pieces, and turn them into a team that is top 10 in both defense and offense in the league. When you look at where it started with the Bulls signing Lonzo Ball, getting that perfect backcourt mate for Zach LaVine, right? Fixing that issue. The Bulls have not had a point guard of Lonzo Ball's caliber since Derrick Rose. Then you take that in what came next after that, the DeMar DeRozan signing, a player who is now leading the league in fourth quarter points scored, but on top of that is the leading scorer on this team, a player who was, a lot of people consider maybe washed up. They thought, go back and look, like we all know that DeMar was quote unquote the worst signing, a player that people didn't think was going to fit next to Zach LaVine. They took that and then they they signed that player with a vision, and now he's an amazing scorer, having a renaissance in his career in a lot of ways, because yes, while he did play solidly on the San Antonio Spurs, people did not think that DeMar still had performances like this in him, right? So the vision from AK and Eversley there. Then when you look at getting Alex Caruso from the Lakers, and the fact, yes, a big part of that played in the fact that the Lakers didn't want to pay him, but the Bulls, while a lot of our fans were clamoring to bring Derrick Rose back, and they, for all intents and purposes, it may have been some conversations there, because the Alex Caruso signing happened very shortly after Derrick Rose signing was announced that he was staying in New York. But either way, they brought that player in, and he's been playing and paying huge dividends for this team. And a lot of, like in last night's game, key moments. Like, it's not always going to be in the stat sheet with Alex Caruso, but key moments in him getting turnovers to help the Bulls hold on to that lead and eventually win this game. When you look at that, when you look at a player like Derrick Jones Jr., who, yes, he's coming on more lately, right? And he didn't start off the season playing very much. He's been playing more lately. But again, Derrick Jones Jr. was a player that the Portland Trailblazers expected to be a starter, and the Bulls have him on their bench, and they're playing him out of position at center. Like I said, Tony Bradley really hasn't been much on this team. We had Troy Brown Jr. last year to end the season, but when you look at like all the moves, even drafting Ayo Dosunmu, a player who, fell, and the Bulls had the foresight, even though looking at their roster, they probably didn't need another guard, but they had the foresight to go ahead, draft him, see what he has, and he's been showing up for us big time. Still makes rookie mistakes, absolutely, right? But still been showing up for us big time. And so, like, in that thought, like, is this the Bulls' best offseason? Now, of course, people would want to go right to that first Tibbs year after the Bulls signed Carlos Boozer. They brought in Ronnie Brown, uh no, not Brown. What was his last name? Ronnie Brewer. Oh, sorry. Kyle Korver. And we again took a team that was a solid team and took them into a contender for the Eastern Conference Finals. But it's different. We had Derrick Rose as a building block there. We still had Luol Deng, who was on this team. We already had Taj Gibson, who was on that team. And these are big contributors to that team as well. But I feel like the Bulls carried over more pieces, right? They more so refined what was going on already on the roster at that point in time. That's not to take away and say that it still wasn't a great offseason, because it absolutely was. Homer Ashik came in, that was his first year as well, like Ashik. But they've completely turned over this roster. They completely took a roster that people thought, okay, the Bulls are probably going to score very well. They're going to be a scrappy team. They may make the play-in, right? They may fight for the 8th seed, maybe as high as the 6th seed. To we are the second best team rank-wise in the NBA, with a chance when we go against the Nets on Saturday to be the #1 ranked team in the Eastern Conference Finals. So I wanted to present that question, start the video off with that thought. Was this the best offseason in Chicago Bulls history? Let me know what you think down below. What do you think were some of the better offseasons that the Bulls had, some of the better acquisitions? And I'm going to take this a bit further. And I said this on the live stream last night, but I want to present it on this video. Is DeMar DeRozan the best free agent signing in Chicago Bulls history? Think about that. Think about that. Let me know what you think down below. If you agree, disagree, if you think Haize is off his rocker, as I tend to be sometimes. But let's go into the mailbag. We got a couple of things that we're going to go into, and I just want to talk about these, and we're going to keep pushing after that. This one from Antonio Vitor. Hot take. Bulls trade Zach LaVine for a power forward, more picks in the trade deadline, and Caruso's promoted to the starting 5. Reasoning: Bulls don't want to pay the max, and they don't want to let him leave for nothing. Listen, Zach LaVine is not leaving this. Come on, man. The Bulls are not trading Zach LaVine. As far as they don't want to pay him the max, Zach LaVine has earned the max. Now, the super max, he has to work himself into that, right? That is one thing that you have to qualify for. But the max, Zach LaVine is showing he's a max player. When you look at the way he plays out there with the confidence, when he's not letting the refs get in his head, come on, man. Like, Antonio, love you. You're a big supporter of the channel, but come on, man. Come on. That's what I got to say with that one. But, you know, I'm sure there are some people that may even think that, but don't want to admit it. But with that being said, like, the Bulls trade Zach LaVine for a power forward. It doesn't. This team is built around what we'll get from Zach. So our need for a power forward, none of that matters if we don't have Zach LaVine. So I can't get with that one, Antonio. But you know, I understand that you may have different thoughts, and that's fine, right? The next one, this was one from user Jabroni, right? I've noticed Bulls fans are always talking about dumping the 2nd and 3rd year player for a rookie. I've already started seeing it with Patrick Williams. The second Io made a shot. Before Williams, it was Kobe, starting to get some heat last year. Wendell Carter Jr. before him, and Lauri Markkanen before that. It gets old. If a player isn't a superstar by the time their 3rd year comes, then it feels like the majority of the fans are done with them. Then you have players like Lonzo and Caruso coming in, who are essentially 4-year versions of these players, and we love them. Always about moving on to the next best thing. Okay, so in this comment, I do want to say, Lauri, I understand it. Lauri showed great promise early on. That aggression, his lack of aggression, has really hurt him over the course of his career. I understand it with Lauri. I also understand it with Wendell Carter Jr. I like the Bulls fans wanting to get rid of Wendell is because I think, especially when we weren't a winning team, we kept looking at what was going to get us over the hump. So initially, when we draft these players, we think, okay, brings Wendell Carter Jr. He's going to bring some shooting. He's going to bring great defense. He's going to be great rebounding, and he never quite lived up to that. Yes, and you know, and I think a lot of that also, the fact that we had Boylen as our coach for so long, who was terrible for player confidence, terrible for player development, really hurt a lot of those young players. He was not a coach for a team that was trying to rebuild with young players that needed guidance, right? His style just didn't work, and the players were over him, and I think that did affect a lot of players' confidence. Now we'll see what they do going into other teams, but specifically with the Patrick Williams and Kobe. The takes with Kobe White again, I think, came because people thought that Kobe White was going to be our starting point guard next to Zach LaVine. They were going to be the Splash Brothers East. And that was Kobe isn't a point guard. That's what we found out, is that Kobe isn't a point guard. Kobe is a scorer. And I do think that Kobe, being in a bench role, once he gets more comfortable with his body again, being out for off season, we'll see. I think he still has that potential. But yes, people absolutely turned on Kobe. Prior to that we came into the season knowing we needed another 4, especially when Patrick Williams went down. And Bulls fans immediately thought that the key and the answer to the Bulls solving the power forward problem is going to be trading Kobe White. Kobe's trade value is probably at an all-time low right now. That's not going to be the key. That, as to quote Kanye West, you ain't got the answers, right? But it's yeah. I mean, Bulls fans absolutely do it, and it probably happens in more fandoms as well. But yeah, as soon as anyone shows any promise, and at the same time somebody's not living up to fans' expectations, they want to trade him. They want to ship him out. The biggest one is Patrick Williams, a 20-year-old rookie who in his rookie season was guarding the team's best perimeter player sometimes, who showed great promise defensively, hasn't shown aggressive offensively like some people want him, but people are so focused on him getting to what they ultimately think he can be that they're not focused on the fact that this kid, because that's what he is, has a lot of years of development ahead of him, and that's perfectly fine. He is on a team now to where he's in the perfect way to develop over the course of 3 or 4 years, like he needs to. Focus on defense, focus on what you can do. He doesn't need to be a little bit more aggressive with hitting open shots because he's going to get a lot on this team when he comes back healthy. But with that being said, his offense is not what we need at any point right now. And I get fans wanting and thinking and being frustrated with, especially how he started this season off. But he came in injured, right? He came in with issues, injuries this season, and he never was quite able to get over them because it kept being something nagging into the big one that took him out for the rest of the season. But I have a lot of promise. I see a lot of promise in Patrick Williams. I do think Bulls fans need to calm down on Patrick Williams and rushing him to be this thing, right? This perfect version of himself. Hell, even Zach LaVine took 3 or 4 years before he was really, he dealt with injuries and stuff too. But yeah, trust the process. And now at least we have a front office, right, that we can trust is going to be focused on the development of this team. And when you have things like that, it makes it a little bit easier. Let's get into the last one. We actually have a voicemail, our first voicemail from Edwin. I'm going to go ahead and play that for you guys right now.
Hey, this is Edwin calling out of Brooklyn. Just a couple comments I was thinking about the Bulls and their chances of turning into a championship-level team. Because I think right now we're just under that. Our ceiling, I believe, is like a conference finals. But right now, I think in order for us to take that next step, really, I believe that, and this is no knock on our guys, but it starts off with defense. Like, I think when I'm watching the game and I'm seeing DeMar and Zach, from our starting five, they play pretty good on-ball defense, but really sometimes they do take some possessions off. So I think that, and it is asking a lot from them because they do so much on the offensive end that it's hard to ask them to do anything else. But I feel like in order to get to the championship level, and championship level players are the ones that play hard on both ends of the floor, So I think that needs to be done. They need to, turn that level up. And I hope in the playoffs they do, but I think during the season they need that practice. They need to get into that more. Other than that, I think Zoe definitely needs to improve his inside game. He needs to be able to finish on the rim better. He needs to improve his mid-range shot because right now he's an incredible threat at the three-point line, but not much of one inside. So once he gets that developed, then he could be dishing out to Zach, DeMar, or Vucevic, and it's over. I mean, it's over at that point. And if they sag off him, he needs to be able to punish them. Okay. So right now I feel like those, and we need a four. We need a four. We need a good four. So I don't know if we wait on Patrick Williams or not. I think we need to get somebody. But I think those adjustments will get us into the championship level discussion, I believe. All right, thank you. Let me know what you think.
So a couple of things from Edwin in that one. Him saying that, our ceiling is right under Eastern Conference Finals. I've already talked about this. I really do think the Bulls can make an Eastern Conference Finals right now with the way that they play, with the heart and determination they play. And it depends on matchups and where everything falls. I'm not saying that they should be favored to do that, but I do think they have that ability to make it there. As far as the play from Zach LaVine, Zach LaVine has improved tremendously defensively. Really over the course of the last like 2 or 3 years, but it seems like he's taken a big leap while the team is overall playing better team defense. Billy Donovan is getting the best out of this team defensively. He did great defensively as well. We were 12th in the league defensively last year with a much worse defensive team. But what I took from this is, what is it going to take for the Chicago Bulls to get to the championship level? It's going to take the team improving, because we're still a quarter into this team's first season together. That chemistry is still building. We saw some last game. Like, that first half that the Bulls played is like what they can play with, the perfect version of them trusting each other, playing with the ball freedom in which they do and they have shown before. But yeah, the Bulls do need a forward, right? We know that they need a rebounding, shot blocking, plays with a lot of energy and can hit open shots forward. Not a superstar, not a star. They don't necessarily need it. Now, if they can get one, okay, but that's not necessarily what they need to really take them to the next level. As well as the play of Alex Caruso. We know Alex has been playing amazingly, and he's going to continue that. Like, Alex is what this Bulls team is going to do ultimately depends on health. It's going to depend on matchup. It's going to depend the adjustments that Billy Donovan has made, because I have some issues with the adjustments he's made or not made over the course of this season so far. But with all that being said, once all those things come together, if they come together, right, or if they change, whatever else, the Bulls, we absolutely have a team that can contend, especially if you're just talking about an Eastern Conference Finals. And like I've been saying before, because I do think that the Bulls can beat, not necessarily that they will beat anyone, but they can beat anyone. If we can see the Bulls getting to an Eastern Conference Finals, we have to say that there's a chance they can get to the finals, at least from my thinking and the way that I decide to think about it. But that's this week's episode of Chicago Bulls Central. This is today's episode of Chicago Bulls Central. A little bit of a longer one. I wanted to go over those things. Let me know what you think about everything down below. If you agree with anything, if you thought anybody's takes were absolutely crazy, let me know all that down below. Like I like to end every video on. Wait, pause. I got to get better at this. You can send any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. We also have a voice and text line that you can call or leave us a text at. That's 773-270-2799. I want to hear from you guys. I want to keep this interaction going, so let me know. Reach out to me, whichever way is easier to you. But like I like to end every video on, go Bulls. Love you guys. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.